Welcome to this week's episode of the Declutter 360 podcast. I'm Lauren Diekman, a certified home organizer and mindset coach who's created this space that is dedicated to helping you unlock your potential to live an organized life once and for all. Are you ready to get organized from all angles? Let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Declutter 360 podcast. Lauren here, and today I'm really excited because for my 50th episode, I have a very special guest, my first guest here on the podcast. So please help me give a special organizer welcome to my friend and boss, Emily Dyall.
Hi guys, my name is Emily, like Lauren said, and I am the owner of Mom's Extra Hands, and we are a company based in St. Louis, Missouri, and we specialize in organizing and personal concierge services.
Fantastic. And Emily, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your history with organizing? How did you get into this? And, what kind of, what do you want to share about your history with this?
The company has been around for about 2.5 years, and I kind of slowly transitioned into it. It was just something I decided to pick up. I have two kids at home and was always doing tasks around, and I was thinking, there's got to be people that need this extra help. And then it kind of transitioned slowly into also like organizing and decluttering. So we provide all those services.
That is awesome. Well, and I know I love being a part of your team, and we share a similar passion in helping others to be able to live life a little bit more freely and a little bit more in a more simplified way, because that really, we know the benefits of the decluttering and the organizing and, being able to keep up with everything in a way that brings peace into the home. And so to be able to pass that on to others is something just extra special. So definitely blessed to know you, blessed to be a part of your mission here in the St. Louis area. So, Emily, would you say that the kitchen is an area that tends to be a problem spot for many of your customers?
I think the kitchen is usually the hot spot of the house because there's so many people that come in and out. It's a highly used traffic area. So it's really easy for things to get cluttered, especially when you have several people coming in and out and just throwing stuff.
Absolutely. I know I always hear people talk about the kitchen's the heart of the home. I
Hmm.
think there's just so much time that's spent there, whether it revolves around the food or not. It just tends to be the place that everyone is drawn to. Conversations happen there, homework happens there, work happens there, life happens in the kitchen.
Hmm.
And so we've been chatting. I know you listen along to the podcast as well. We've been chatting the past several weeks about some more kitchen focused things in meal planning and sharing kind of some tips and tricks in meal planning, in grocery shopping, and really just setting yourself up for success. So today I wanted to chat a little bit about your knowledge and your skill. I'm so excited for you to share this with us in being able to help people set themselves up for success when it comes to their kitchen, especially in terms of the actual food that's in the kitchen. I know obviously in the several months that we've been together, we take care of helping a lot of clients with their refrigerator, freezer, with the pantry, things like that. So, what kinds of problems do you see most of your clients running into in these areas?
Sometimes I just think people overcomplicate meal planning and shopping and just kind of laying out the week. You just grab a couple of things. If you have a busy week ahead, don't overcomplicate your recipes. Throw a crock pot meal together, prep your protein, cut up your veggies and your fruit and stuff on the weekend when you have that free time and just kind of play it out. I think when you overcomplicate it, it just creates too much anxiety about what will we eat every night. If you have the staples on hand, then you could just go from there.
Totally agree. Yeah. So what kinds of specific pitfalls do you see happening in the pantry or happening in the refrigerator, things like that?
Overbuying is definitely one of the top things that I see, especially bulk buying Costco, Sam's, unless you know specifically for the recipes that you need this quantity. Sometimes buying more for less is not always better because there's so many times that we go to clients' houses and the stuff is so expired, but it's also cluttering up their pantry, their refrigerators. And so it's hard for them to add the new stuff and things are not being rotated. So, one thing we do often is rotate the client's refrigerator, clean it out, go into the pantry, get that decluttered quite a bit. And we just find a lot of expired stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's, something we've talked about in previous episodes in this series too. That idea that, the bulk buying, while it can hold some serious value in all different kinds of ways, if you're not doing it really effectively and maximizing the value of that for yourself and your household, it just causes more problems because it literally creates clutter in your life and keeps you from seeing the things that you have, knowing what's in there, knowing what you have available to use, and it just keeps getting pushed back and back. And you're right.
Well, and most people's pantry just can't fit that amount of product. So then it ends up going into the basement. And while that sounds nice, are you going to go down to the basement and look for that product before you go back to the grocery store? So, you just have to be good at rotating if you are going to be doing that route where you're doing double storage. But most pantries just don't fit, 20 cans of cream of mushroom soup. So you just have to be really thoughtful about when you're shopping. And meal planning is really great for that because you get the products that you need for the specific recipe. You're not overbuying. You get for the thing and you move on. So you're not buying extra cans. And I know sometimes I'm guilty of that. I'll go to the store and buy more bags of cheese and then I'll come home and my cheese drawer is packed full. So just
I'm
have to
so
pay
glad you have a
attention.
cheese drawer. I actually mentioned that in last week's episode. And I was like, I don't know. Does anybody else out there have a cheese drawer? So, yes, cheese drawers unite. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, you bring up a really good point that, there comes that value side of things. And, I think a lot of times we think when we're bulk buying, we're preparing ourselves, but or saving money, but in the long run it's the space versus the money and the time. All of those things have to work together, and they
Hmm.
each aspect of that little triangle has to make sense, because if it's just that you're saving 11 cents on each canned good, is that really worth the space that it takes to store that, the time that it takes to, transfer things, to your point, when you have to put your back stock in another area to be able to transfer and move those things and keep the rotation going. So there's a lot of different pieces that have to, come together and work together. And I also
Yeah.
last week extended a challenge for our listeners to go and take a look in their pantry, take a look in their fridge, and be able
Hmm.
to see, what do I already have and how can I create a meal plan from what I have now to help me work that down. And when they get that bulk worked down that way, then they can continue meal planning in a way where they're just putting on their grocery list what they need. And that doesn't mean you have to have all of the ingredients in the pantry or the fridge or the freezer or whatever, but that you can say, oh, I have all these cans of diced tomatoes. So maybe I'm going to
Hmm.
make soup or a pot of chili or whatever and use up some of my tomatoes this week.
One thing I've found pretty helpful lately is Chat GPT. If you actually go on there, you list ingredients and say, help me make a meal. It'll spew out a few different recipes. So that's really good to utilize if you have specific things that you need to use up and you just cannot think of a way to use them. Just go on there, plug it in, and see what it comes up with.
I love that. I had never thought about doing that. I'm gonna have to go take a peek and see if there's anything hiding in the back of my pantry later that I can come up with a creative recipe. And what a great way to also break that cycle. I don't know about
Hmm.
you, but like we get in a dinner rut where we're making the same
Hmm.
things over and over again just because it's familiar and it feels easy, right?
Like, how many nights can we have tacos? Like,
If it was up to my teenager, every night we would have tacos.
can't think of dinner. Let's do a taco.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's easy and we know we have the staples on hand to
Hmm.
make tacos, except for the nights when he's like, did you not buy taco shells? I'm like, oh, well, sorry, buddy.
I
Sometimes
think
you don't have what you need in the pantry and you got to be good about checking it.
something that helps, I think, with our clients is a lot of times when we are cleaning out the refrigerator or the pantry, we'll send them a picture if they're not home or let them see what we're taking out before we throw it away. And it kind of shows them like, hey, if I'm throwing away, 6 cans of this item that are expired, just don't bulk buy it because clearly you're not using the product. So
Yes.
that's something I think that's pretty important.
Yes. Okay. I have to ask you. This just popped into my head. Can you think of what the most expired item, even if you don't know, like, don't remember what it was a can of or whatever, like, how many years expired was it out of a
Oh
client's
my gosh.
pantry?
I would say like probably 2008 is the one I can think of. And I only remember that because it's the year before I graduated high school. And I was like, please don't eat this.
Yes, I have
But it's always like a little
2008 was the number in
contest.
my head too. I was like, I'm
It's
pretty sure.
always a contest. How old can we find?
Yeah.
Like I've seen like spices from like the 80s and the bottles
Oh
are
my
so
God.
cool. I'm like, you should almost keep this because it's so cool looking, but just don't eat
But don't eat it, please.
it.
Like, oh my gosh, go to Aldi. You can get a new
Yeah.
container of that spice for 99 cents or whatever, $1.29 inflation, right? Oh my gosh. So, Emily, something else I want to ask you about is, obviously I know, I talk a lot on the podcast about elevating to your spaces to a functional form first and then kind of taking it that extra step into the aesthetic. Keeping both of those things in mind, whether it's something that you're recommending for aesthetics or for function, are there any specific products that you find really helpful in a pantry?
First up is just separating the items, get the canned items lined up together. You don't need the tiered stack to start the shelf to start doing that. Just get the items together, like items, group the grains together, the cereals, just get everything together. But also, don't waste your money on bins and containers and changing stuff from a plastic bag to a plastic container if you are having trouble maintaining the space. I think the first step is seeing how you maintain it with keeping the items grouped before you go get all of the super cute aesthetic items. And while they're awesome and I love the look of them, I think having the first step put out there and seeing how you maintain it is a little more practical in some spots because I've been to houses where we do the Pinterest looking pantry and they don't keep up with it and stuff just gets thrown in front of the containers and the bins. So I think the first step is really just taking a look at your pantry and seeing how you can maintain it before going all in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really wise way to go about getting started, that just grouping, because not only does it give you a better idea of what you have in there, but being
Hmm.
able to look and find something more quickly. I don't know about you, but usually when we're, especially in the mornings, oh my gosh, trying to get out the door, trying to go somewhere, trying to get everybody fed, it's like I want to be able to open that pantry and know that I can grab exactly what I
Hmm.
need like right then and there. I don't want it to take me like having to move stuff out of the way and is it back here? Is it back here? I could have sworn I had some and digging through. So that idea of
Hmm.
grouping like categories together, is really important even in a space like a pantry, just to help you be able to function in a more simple way. It takes some of that mental load away, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah. One thing I did for my kids is we have excess space in our kitchen. So one of the pull-out drawers, I took some clear bins and made it their snack drawer. So that's kind of helped not, combine the items in the pantry with the baking and the regular day-to-day food. They have a specific drawer that they pull out and it has their applesauce, their crackers and all of that kind of stuff for it's easily accessible for them to just grab and go, especially
Oh,
getting out the door in the morning.
yeah, I love that. And then, that made me just think of something that I did not too long ago in our pantry was I realized this one random frustration for me was that my younger son went through a kick where he wanted to make an ice cream sundae like every night, right? And he always had to have sprinkles on the sundae. Sprinkles at my it's like glitter. Like no, no sprinkles, no glitter. You know me well enough to know I don't handle that kind of stuff real well. But we do have sprinkles in the house, but the sprinkles were up on like a top shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my little 10-year-old guy can't reach the top shelf. And so then it was always, well, hold on, I got to get him down for you. And then, stop washing dishes or whatever I was doing to go get him the sprinkles down. And it finally dawned on me, like, if that's something that he's going to need access to every
Mm-hmm.
day, why am I keeping that out of his reach?
Yeah.
And so at that point, I stopped and, really rethought not just how I had things grouped in the
Mm-hmm.
pantry, but where things were located and who was the most frequently person accessing those things. It wasn't me going for the sprinkles. It was my little guy. So I needed to have those down lower where he could get to it. So I love the idea of you having a snack drawer that's really accessible. And I've seen a lot of people doing that in their refrigerators as
Mm-hmm.
well, like having turning one of their lower produce drawers or things into a snack drawer for their refrigerated type things, Go-Gurts or yogurts or whatever, whatever might be in their fruit.
In my
Um,
head, I say I'm that organized in my life, but I aspire to be that.
right, right. It's
We
like,
started with a snack drawer of, not perishable items. We're slowly getting there one day.
well, and you know what, Emily, I think that's the beautiful thing of it is for us even to show everybody out there, like, hey, we are organizers. We do this for a living, but even we start small in realistic chunks for ourselves and have to work our way up. And I
We
think
come
that's just,
last.
what's that?
We come last.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So often. And I can't tell you how often, we've been helping a client in one of their spaces and I've been like, oh, how come I haven't done this in my own house?
Yeah. Or you go home and you start it right away, like 5 o'clock at night, and it's instant regret. You're like, no,
Oh,
it was
every
great
time.
until I have to go to bed. So,
Every time. Gets us every time, doesn't it? Oh my goodness. Well, Emily, thank you so much for chatting at pantries and refrigerators and everything with me. I know our listeners have gotten a lot of value out of this episode, and they can come join me over in the private Facebook community, the Declutter 360 community. That link is down in the show notes. So come and join in the conversation over there if you have any questions or maybe have a spot in your kitchen that needs a little troubleshooting as well. Until next week, stay organized from all angles. Thank you for tuning into the Declutter 360 podcast today. I am so grateful that you found me and that we can partner together to help you live life organized from all angles. Whether this was your first time listening or you've heard every episode, you'll want to join my email list so you don't miss a bit of the inspiration and motivation to help you stay the course in living organized. Check the show notes for the link to join, okay? And hey, if you found this episode to be particularly helpful or inspiring, I would be so honored for you to share it on socials so we can grow the impact of these messages together. Oh, thank you so much. All right, my friend, that's all for now. Tune in next week for more on the Declutter 360 podcast.